Welcome to Creative Connections, connecting the creative, creatively connecting everything else. Today we're on the West Sussex coast at Littlehampton, and this isn't the sort of place where geology announces itself with towering cliffs or dramatic rock formations.
No, Littlehampton's geology is quieter than that. It's not a coast of cliffs, caves and sea stacks. It's a coast of movement. Sand, shingle, dunes, groynes, tides, river mud, sea walls, pebbles, wind and water. Almost everything here is being moved, sorted, held back, pushed forward or rearranged.
So instead of looking for cliffs and rock formations, we're looking at what the sea, the river and the wind are doing to the place.
Exactly. Littlehampton is a good place to notice something we often forget about the coast. We think of the shoreline as a line on a map, a fixed boundary between land and sea. But when you stand here, it's not really a line at all. It's a zone of constant adjustment. The sea pushes in, the river pushes out, wind moves sand, waves move shingle, people build walls and groynes to hold things in place. And then the coast adjusts again.
So where do we start?
With the beach itself, with the material under our feet. Because a shingle beach can look very simple at first, just a mass of grey and brown stones. But once you look more closely, it becomes much more interesting. It's not just lying here by accident.
So the beach is not just sitting here, it's been brought here piece by piece.
Yes, and the journey doesn't end when the pebble arrives. On a beach like this, waves are constantly sorting material by size and weight. Larger stones may be pushed higher up the beach during rougher conditions. Smaller material may be pulled down or shifted along shore. Shells, seaweed and driftwood collect in strand lines. Sand and shingle form ridges, slopes and banks that change with tides and weather. So the beach isn't one fixed surface, it's the most recent arrangement of material by the sea.
There's a raised bank of shingle higher up the beach here. Is that part of the same process?
Yes, that raised bank is called a berm. It's formed when waves push shingle or sand up the beach and leave it there, often creating a ridge or step near the upper part of the shore. It can look quite permanent when you're standing beside it. It feels solid, but it's really a temporary shape. A storm, a run of strong tides, or a change in wave direction can alter it again. That's one of the things I like about beaches like this. They look settled until you realise they are full of recent events.
So even that bank of shingle is not just scenery, it's a record of what the sea has been doing.
Exactly. It's a physical trace of wave action. The sea has pushed material up the beach, sorted it and left it in a form we can read. And you can often see other temporary marks too. Swash lines where waves have run up and back, strand lines where seaweed, shells or small debris have been left by a high tide, and slight changes in colour or texture where different material has collected. None of these things has to last very long to be meaningful. In fact, their temporary nature is the point. They show that the shore is being remade all the time.
And the pebbles themselves, are they mainly flint?
Many of them are flint, yes. And that connects Littlehampton back to the chalk landscape of Sussex, even though we are not standing beside chalk cliffs here. Flint forms within chalk. Chalk itself was created from the remains of tiny marine organisms in ancient seas. So when you pick up a flint pebble on a Sussex beach, you're holding something that connects this modern shoreline to a much older sea.
That's a strange thought. A beach pebble linking one sea to another sea, millions of years apart.
It is. And then that flint has its own later history. It's been weathered out of chalk, broken, rounded, moved by water, perhaps shifted along the coast and eventually deposited here. There may also be other materials mixed in. Shell fragments, pieces of brick or tile, imported rock used in sea defences, glass worn smooth, and stones that have travelled in ways that are harder to trace. A beach is a sorting place. The sea sorts by weight, shape and resistance. Humans add material, remove material, build defences, move stone around, and time decides what survives.
So the beach is natural, but not only natural.
Yes, that's important here. Littlehampton is not a pristine, untouched coast. It is a lived-in coast, a managed coast, a working coast. That doesn't make it less interesting. In some ways, it makes it more interesting because you can see the relationship between natural processes and human decisions.
And one of the biggest natural processes here must be the River Arun meeting the sea.
Absolutely. Littlehampton is not just a seaside town. It's also the place where one of the major rivers of Sussex reaches the English Channel. The river gives the coast another force to deal with. It brings water, sediment and tidal movement into the picture. The open beach is shaped by waves and longshore movement. The river mouth is shaped by tides, river flow, harbour structures and navigation. So this isn't just land meeting sea, it's river meeting sea as well.
The harbour entrance feels quite controlled. The water is channelled, the walls guide it out.
Yes, and that's because river mouths do not always behave in ways that suit us. Left entirely to themselves, they can shift, silt, widen, narrow, change course, and become difficult for boats or surrounding development. So, at Littlehampton, as in many coastal towns, the river has been managed. Harbour walls and training structures help hold the entrance in place. They give the river a more fixed route into the sea. But of course, fixing one part of a moving system doesn't stop the movement altogether. It just changes how and where the movement happens.
That's also true of the groynes, isn't it?
Yes, groynes are a very visible sign that the beach material is moving. You can easily walk past them without thinking much about them. Just lines of timber running down the beach into the sea. But they're clues to what the coast is doing. They only make sense because sand and shingle are being moved along the shore. The groynes interrupt that movement, trap some of the material, and help hold the beach in place.
So if the beach were not moving, we wouldn't need them.
Exactly. A groyne is a kind of admission that the shore wants to travel. And that is one of the basic challenges of coastal management. If you trap beach material in one place, you may reduce the amount moving further along the coast. So every intervention has consequences. The coast is connected. You cannot alter one stretch of shoreline without potentially affecting another.
It's interesting how ordinary these things look, but they are all signs of movement.
Yes, that's what makes this stretch of coast interesting. It doesn't overwhelm you with one spectacular feature. Instead, the ordinary things start to matter. The shingle, the berm, the groynes, the harbour wall, the dunes. Each one tells you something about what the coast is doing. The shingle tells you that waves are sorting the beach. The berm tells you that material has been pushed up the shore. The groynes tell you that the beach is moving along the coast. The harbour walls tell you that the river mouth has had to be managed. The dunes tell you that wind and plants are shaping the land together. Each feature is a clue.
And once you cross the River Arun from east to west beach, the whole feel of the place changes. The town drops away a bit, and the shore feels looser and wilder.
It does. West Beach has a softer, wilder feeling. There are dunes, grasses, shingle, sand and open sky. It feels less like a town beach and more like an edge habitat. And dunes are fascinating because they're made from movement, but they also slow movement down. Wind blows sand inland from the beach. Plants such as marram grass trap some of that sand. The sand builds around the plants and gradually a dune forms. So the plant isn't just growing on the dune, it's helping to create it.
Does that mean the dune is partly geological and partly biological?
Yes, it's a landform made with the help of life. Wind moves the sand. Plants interrupt the wind. Sand gathers. The dune grows. Then the dune becomes habitat for other plants and insects, and it also helps protect the land behind it. A sea wall resists the sea by being hard. A dune works differently. It absorbs, shifts, rebuilds and changes.
But that also makes it vulnerable.
It does. Dunes can be damaged by too much trampling. If the vegetation is broken, the sand can become loose again and start blowing away. That's why paths, signs and fencing matter in dune systems. They're not just about keeping people out for the sake of it. They're about allowing the dune to hold together. A healthy dune is both fragile and strong. Fragile in the sense that careless use can damage it. Strong in the sense that it can protect, absorb and adapt in ways a hard structure cannot.
So the River Arun is walled as it reaches the sea, but either side of it the beaches feel different. Groynes to the east, dunes and plants to the west.
Yes, and that is one of the main contrasts along this stretch of coast. Human engineering tries to hold a line. Natural systems tend to work through movement and adjustment. Neither is simple. We need sea defences in places because people have built homes, roads, harbours and businesses close to the shore. But dunes remind us that not all protection has to be rigid. Sometimes the coast protects itself by being allowed to move.
That feels very relevant now because we talk so much about sea level rise and coastal change.
It is relevant, but I wouldn't want this to become a gloomy story. The coast has always changed. Rivers have shifted, beaches have moved, dunes have formed and eroded, sea levels have risen and fallen over long periods. What is different now is that we have built so much at the edge, and we often expect the edge to behave as if it were fixed. But the coast isn't fixed, it never has been.
And Littlehampton shows that in a very practical way.
Yes, coastal change can sound like something remote or technical, but here you can see it and feel it. You can stand beside a groyne, walk over shingle, cross a berm, watch the river flow out, hear the wind in the dune grass, and see how many different forces are meeting in one place.
There's also an older story here, isn't there? About the River Arun continuing beyond the present coastline.
Yes, and it's one of the most surprising parts of the story. Today, when we stand at Littlehampton and look out to sea, it feels as though the river ends here. The Arun reaches the beach, meets the channel, and that's that. But after the last ice age, when sea levels were lower, the coastline was much farther out. The river continued beyond the present shore across land that's now under the English Channel. There would have been river channels, sediments, perhaps wetland areas, plants and animals, a landscape that has since been covered by the sea. That gives Littlehampton a much deeper timescale. The beach, the berm, the groynes and the harbour mouth are all part of the coast we see today, but beyond them is an older version of the Arun hidden offshore.
So the coast isn't simply where the land ends?
No, it's where the land is still being changed, and where earlier versions of it have disappeared from view.
So Littlehampton gives us 3 timescales at once. There's the tide today, the coastline over centuries, and the older Arun Valley over thousands of years.
Yes, and even the pebble in your hand adds another timescale, because the material itself may connect back to ancient chalk seas millions of years ago. That's what makes a place like this richer than it first appears. At first glance, it's a familiar seaside place, but when you slow down, it becomes layered. The tide is recent. The berm may be recent. The groynes are human interventions. The dunes grow and erode over years. The river valley reaches back into prehistory. The flint reaches back into deep geological time. All of those stories are present on the same shore.
I like that because it makes Littlehampton feel less ordinary without pretending it's something it isn't.
Which is what makes this stretch of coast interesting. Much of it is low, mobile and changeable. Sand, shingle, silt and mud being shifted by wind, tide and waves. But towards the western end of West Beach, near Climping, the chalk shows through, reminding us that there is older geology beneath this restless shoreline. And at East Beach, low tide reveals another version of the coast. As the sea pulls back, it exposes wide sand flats, rock pools, and the rocky seabed area known locally as Winkle Island.
So Littlehampton changes not just from east to west, but from tide to tide.
Exactly. What looks like open water at high tide can become sand, rock pools, stones, and exposed seabed a few hours later. It's also when the shore becomes more visibly alive, with crabs, mollusks, and other small marine life using those temporary wet spaces. So yes, this is geology, but not only in the traditional sense of fixed rock and cliffs. It's geology in motion, or more precisely, coastal geomorphology.
Meaning the way the land itself is being shaped.
Yes, and here that shaping is happening all the time, under the tide, under your feet, and sometimes within the space of a few hours.
And you can hear it too. The sound of walking on shingle is very distinctive.
It is. That crunching, dragging sound tells you straight away that this is a mobile surface. Every step displaces something. There's also the hiss of water running back through the stones, the wind through the grasses, gulls overhead, and the hollow sound of waves breaking further out.
So Littlehampton may look familiar, but it isn't still.
No, the coast here is being made, unmade and remade all the time. Some of that happens slowly over centuries. Some of it happens suddenly during a storm. And some of it is happening now with every tide. That's what makes it worth looking at closely. The coast is not a fixed line between land and sea. It's a meeting place of river and tide, wind and sand, chalk and shingle, plants and people. Here the story is written in loose, shifting things: stones, water, grass, timber, tide marks and sand. So next time you walk along a beach, don't just look out to sea. Look down as well. The story may be under your feet.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Creative Connections, come back next time and we'll draw a new map of connections. Wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, please like, subscribe or follow, because it helps us keep the channel going and build even more creative connections.